Welcome to an introduction to control structures, also called conditional statements and loops. Now, these let you do some amazing things with a little amount of code. We'll start with the if statement. The if statement checks for a condition and then executes the preceding statement or set of statements if the condition is true. The syntax for an if statement is simple and goes like you see right here. For example, let's say you want to turn on a fan when a certain temperature is reached. To read the temperature, you have a thermistor, which is just a heat-sensitive resistor, connected to the Arduino's ADC, or analog to digital converter, through one of the analog pins. Now, since it has a 10-bit ADC, the values will range from 0 to 1023. So if it's cold, the value will be on the small side, and if it's hot, the value will be larger. You could use an if statement like this one to turn on the fan. This reads the ADC using the analog read function, and then assigns that value to an integer named temp. Here we have the if statement. Let's break it down. We see the word if, and then we see a comparison inside the parentheses. Now that comparison could be anything. It could be less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to or not equal to. And then we have the curly brace there, the opening curly brace. And then you would insert code that would run the fan and then have the closing curly brace. Notice that the code inside the curly braces only gets executed if that conditional statement is true. So if analog read returns a value less than 500, the code does not execute. An if-else statement is like a power-up for your if statements. It allows you greater control over the flow of code than a basic if statement. And this will allow you to test for more than one condition. For example, we can see this code right here. And here we turn on the fan if it gets too hot, just as before. But now, if it gets too cold, we sound an alarm. Note that we can use as many else-if statements as we like. So we can have 3, 4, 5, 10 different conditions. And we would start with if, and then each subsequent condition would have an else if, else if, else if in front of it. Now, the for loop is one of the most useful and common pieces of code out there. And it's often used with arrays, which is a subject that's a bit beyond the scope of basic programming here, but one you'll want to become familiar with. And the syntax can be seen here. Now, at first, the for loop can be confusing and intimidating. But after a while, you'll become good friends. An example from the Arduino website is shown here. And for clarity, I've removed the setup and loop functions, but just know that, of course, the setup and loop functions are required for every sketch. And let's take a closer look at the for loop.